Hi, I'm Laura McMahon-Higgins. Welcome back to Nasty or Necessary, the series where we examine common clauses from commercial construction contracts to answer the question, is it commercially necessary or just plain nasty? Today we are looking at liquidated damages clauses, something that we all know far too well. This is what the clause will look like. If the contractor fails to reach practical completion by the date for practical completion, the contractor should be liable to the principal for liquidated damages at the rate specified in item 35 for every day after the date for practical completion to and including the earliest of the date of practical completion or termination of the contract. Now, I know that is a bit of a mouthful to get your head around, so let's unpack it. Now, there are two terms in a construction contract that sound very similar: the date for practical completion and the date of practical completion. The date for practical completion is the date listed in the contract, plus or minus any extensions of time that are awarded during the life of the project. Whereas the date of practical completion is the date that the superintendent signs off that the work is actually complete. So let's think of that on a timeline. If the contractor finishes works early, the date of practical completion will be before the date for practical completion. However, if it's the other way around and the contractor runs late, the date of practical completion will be after the date for practical completion. If this is the case, the contractor will be liable to pay the principal a set rate per day for each day between when they should have finished and when they did finish. Now, the reason people consider a liquidated damages clause nasty is because its operation is not affected by concepts of fault or loss. Therefore, it's possible that a principal could delay a project through their negligence or incompetence, which causes the contractor to run late. And if the contractor fails to claim an extension of time to push out that date for practical completion, they could end up paying liquidated damages in respect of a delay that was actually caused by the principal. Now, to add to this, the question of loss is irrelevant, which means a contractor can still claim liquidated damages from a subcontractor, even when no liquidated damages have been claimed against the contractor by the principal. Now, when you say it like that, you can see why these clauses have a bad reputation. They can potentially make a subcontractor liable to pay money for a delay that was not their fault when the person claiming that money hasn't suffered a loss. But only if the contractor runs late. It all hinges on the date for PC and the date of PC. So providing contractors ensure that they can complete the scope of works within the program time, they have the ability to claim an extension of time for things that are likely to delay their works, and they actually do the paperwork during the course of the contract to claim that time, then liquidated damages are not unnecessarily nasty. In other words, the risk can be controlled and managed by a contractor, which differentiates liquidated damages clauses from some of the other clauses that we look at in this series, where the contractor has no mechanism to manage or control the risk that it is forced to bear. Now let's consider whether liquidated damages are necessary. Now, in my opinion, absolutely. Firstly, they provide an effective mechanism to incentivize contractors to actually finish the work on time. But more importantly, they allow both parties to deal with time under the provisions of the contract rather than running off to the courts, which is time-consuming and expensive every time a project runs late, because let's face it, they are going to run late. So I'm going to rate these clauses as necessary. That wraps up this episode of Nasty or Necessary. If you found this helpful, please follow along for more content or sign up to complete our online training course today. Understanding this stuff is a bit like insuring your house against a fire. If you're uninsured and things blow up, it's really going to hurt. So grab some training today. You'll be glad you did tomorrow.